Welcome everybody to another week, and welcome back to Murg Mayhem, where one take can cause absolute mayhem. And man, this weekend had lots of news. I'm going to be talking about Super Bowl, NBA trade deadline, because that seemed like it could be a whole episode in itself. I'm going back to last week as well, just because I wasn't able to post or upload an episode, just due to health, and I just wasn't doing well personally and dealt with some personal issues. But that's life. We got to move on. So I will be going back to last week a little bit for some MLB stuff, because a lot of MLB stuff happened. But yeah, it's going to be mainly focused on NBA trade deadline and the Super Bowl. So yeah, let's get into it. So going back last week, we're going to start off with baseball. Lots of little things happened in baseball. But the big thing that happened last week was Jose Altuve getting extended by the Astros. And some of you all, if you don't follow baseball, like, okay, Jose Altuve, who is this guy? So Jose Altuve is a second baseman for the Houston Astros. His story is one of the most inspirational stories, if not all, in sports. He's a 5'6" man who came from Venezuela, didn't have anything, and he like all athletes, depending on where they grow up, that's all they have to get out. So growing up, Jose Altuve would hit bottle caps, and what they do is they find a way. You have to be very good. You have to flick it, either to make it in different ways to make it move, and to try to simulate different pitches. So they'd get a broom, like a broomstick, where they just break the broom and they just have the wood thing, and they try to hit those things, like coming in like that. And I've tried to do it. It's very, very hard to do. But that's how he started. And then if they lost to baseball, they'd have to go, if not find that baseball, but they didn't have the money to buy, so they had to keep going to pro games or the teams that they had in Venezuela to get a baseball, and that's how they get those. And he's signing for 5 years, $125 million. He's one of the best postseason players of all time. He's got like 27 homers in the postseason. Career 300 hitter, about 200 stolen bases. He's got 200. He has 293, 747 RBIs, 209 homers for his career. And as far as accolades goes, he's an MVP, 2-time World Series champion, Gold Glove, 8-time All-Star, 3-time batting title, which means he led the league in average 3 times in the American League, and he is a 6-time Silver Slugger, which means he's the best hitter at that position. In his career WAR, which is wins above replacement, is 49. So he's a 49.3 win player. For me, it's tough, because ever since 2017, like, once I figured out that the Astros did cheat, it did take a while for some sort of resentment in the baseball community to, I guess, forgive them. And I forgave them, but at the same time, you still have that grudge against that team. But ever since finding out, which was in 2020, the past 4 years, he's still the same guy. He hasn't seemed like any different. Now, there was a drop-off after 2020, but that was due to COVID, and 21 was the full season, so there was a little drop off for everyone. So 2020 and halfway of 21, it was kind of a grace year because of COVID and how it affected everybody, and as far as play and numbers wise. So 2022, I mean, he's still in every playoff series since then. He's showed why that cheating scandal does not affect him. So he's one of the better second basemen, if not all time, without that cheating scandal. If you take that cheating scandal out, I mean, his numbers are probably going to be just about the same. But through from 2025 to 2027, he'll make 30 million a year, and then there's some player options in that deal, so he's got some stability just in case the Astros are not going to be in contention. But what they did in the offseason, getting Josh Hader, which is arguably the best left-handed reliever in all of baseball. He's been with Milwaukee, showed you why he's the best closer in the National League at that time when he was there. And he was paired with Devin Williams. So you had that 1-2 punch, righty-lefty. You know, you're going to get what you're going to get from them two. And, you know, with their rotation, they have Justin Verlander, Framber Valdez. If you want to put J.P. France back in the starting rotation, he was in the bullpen last year in the postseason. You know, they're just so deep in what they can do with pitching. I forgot about Lance McCullers. He was injured last year. Christian Javier and their bullpen with, you know, obviously Hader. They have Kendall Graveman and Ryan Presley, who's been lights out in the postseason and regular season as well. So they have, and then I forgot another name because they're just so they're so deep in bullpen and starters, and some starters can go in the bullpen. So their team is so valuable. And you know, Luis Garcia, he was injured for most of the year from the World Baseball Classic, just not as severe as Edwin Diaz from the Mets, but yeah, he was out quite a bit this year. But yeah, that's all about the Houston Astros. But they're probably going to be the favorites to get out of the West again. It just seems like it's just them and now the Rangers because of some rivalry going on this year. But yeah, it's going to be them two. Seattle did improve this year as far as trade acquisitions during the summer and signings that they did as well. So AL West is going to be just like the AL East, and I'm excited to see because the uncertainty and the surprises we can see from that division. Another thing that happened in the AL West for the Angels, I guess their second best player now with Trout going back to number one, with Ohtani leaving, is Taylor Ward going back to the Angels. He won arbitration. It's good that he's able to come back, but I mean it's not like or as far as me, I'm excited about it. I mean, I don't feel like anyone was going to pay him the money he was asking, and you know the Angels need all they can get. So if he wants what he wants, Anaheim, you better pay the guy because you're not getting anybody else that's just as good or if not better. DJ Peters, he was a outfielder for the Dodgers, utility guy. He only played about 25 games or so. He didn't perform too well. He had a OPS under 600. He had an average about 190 something, you know. But at the same time, when he was there with the Dodgers, they had Enrique Hernandez, or Kike, as some people say. They had Yasiel Puig. They had Andre Ethier. They had so many veterans and so many guys that can play out there. Jock Peterson is another name that they had at that time when he was there. So it's just with the Dodgers, you know, you have to have that. Basically, those first 5 games, you got to be on a tear. Once you get called up, boom, you got to show like what you could do at that moment in time. And with him, you know, it took him a while to try to figure it out, but you know, they let him go in free agency, and he signed with Texas, and he was a little bit better with Texas, but you know, but at the same time, you know, when you have when he gets back, you know, when he went to the farm system over there, you know, it's kind of tough to see how you match up with a different league as well, going into the ALS instead of NOS. But then he went to the KBO and was over there for a while, and now he's coming back as a redefined pitcher. Now, there's a video on Twitter. It's called X, but I call it Twitter just because that's what I've grown up with, and that's what probably everybody knows it as. But there's a video on Twitter of him throwing, just simulated live at bats with I'm not sure who he was facing, but he topped out at 95, and his slider went to about 83 to 87. I'm not really sure as far as, well, I think his consistent was 83 as far as an average of his slider, but he looks good. I mean, it's very hard for position players to, if you haven't pitched before, to go and try pitching, because it's a different mechanical process. It's a different routine. All of it is different. But yeah, his mechanics look good, and I'm excited to see him on Texas on the opening day roster. I'm rooting for him. Every comeback story, I want the guys to do well, and just like Altuve, 5'6". Look, some people are like, well, he's too small. What can he do? And he's potentially first ballot Hall of Famer. So, I want DJ Peters to come back and show what the Dodgers missed as far as his talent and his potential. So, another thing that happened, Gary Sanchez signed with the Brewers. I mean, he's just a guy that can just hit for power, and he's gotten a little bit better defensively, but he's just a power bat that at the catcher position, once he gets rolling, we saw it with the Padres. When he gets rolling, he's a very dominant presence behind the plate with that power. And another power guy that didn't have a great year last year as far as his standards. 2021 going into 22, Vladdy Jr. was second in MVP voting in 21. Losing to Shohei Ohtani. Last year he hit 276. He hit about 26 to 30 home runs. He drove in about 100. But as far as the average, I mean, it was a good. It's a good average now. When he was runner up in MVP, he hit about 300. Drove in 100 plus, and he hit for about four. He hit, I think, 40 to 50 homers. So coming off that year, we're like, oh my gosh, he's coming back. There's no way, he could go back. I won't say get any worse, because he's still one of the better first basemen in the American League. But it was a down year for him, I would say. He's going back to Toronto. He won arbitration with 19.9. I mean, last year I just feel like there was a lot of stuff going on in his head as far as, I don't know if it was approach, I don't know if it was the off-season stuff, but there was just a lot of stuff probably going on in his head, and bouncing back from that year. I mean, he probably felt some pressure. I mean, I would too. I mean, shit, like there's lots of stuff that a good player like him could have going on, but happy for him, well deserved that roughly $20 million contract for this year. Don't know about if he's a free agent after or club control, but he's going back there for sure another year. Another thing that happened, this happened yesterday. Spencer Turnbull got signed by the Phillies. He was with Detroit. The last time we saw him was last year, but he wasn't himself last year at all. He was rehabbing and coming back from Tommy John. So his last healthy year before the injury, he went 4-2 with a 2.88 ERA before his injury. In 2020, we didn't know who this guy was, and then he comes in 2020, and in that shortened season, we saw, for at least for Detroit, because Detroit hasn't been very good for so long, we're like, oh my gosh, 2.88 ERA for 4-2 record. with a good whip. I mean, like we thought that was going to be their ace, and then Tommy John happens, and then he comes back last year, and he only had 7 starts, so there wasn't a lot of time with him up there. But he went 1-4 with a 7.26 ERA. So as far as the Phillies starting rotation, hopefully he can make the opening day roster. I do know that their pitching depth is deep. I mean, with 1-2 and Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, with Ranger Suarez at the number 3 starter and Taijuan Walker at 4. So he could potentially be the 5th starter if they do run 5. But I'm happy that he's able to at least try to get to play on a contending team like the Phillies are. Another guy that got signed last night was Lucas Ludig. I think that's how you pronounce his name. If not, I surely apologize. But he pitched with the Yankees last year. Last year he got injured last year, but last year he didn't have a good performance with them last year. I don't know if it's just the New York vibe, because it's hard. The stereotype and the rumor is you sometimes, if you're in New York, you can't play in New York. It's a different environment. So I don't know what happened there, but he was injured. He only pitched about 13 2/3 innings, so that has something to do with it. His ERA wasn't good; it was over 7. But the one thing that he did do well, as far as stat category wise, was whip. His whip was 1.76, so that's pretty good. But the last year he was healthy, he actually pitched for the Red Sox, and in 21-22 he had 138 Ks and 129 and 2/3 innings. 2/3 is basically he didn't finish the inning, so he got 2 outs out of 3 in 1 inning. So hopefully he can bounce back from that injury and pitch like he did when he was healthy. I mean, like with Boston, they need quite a bit. I mean, they lost Ryan Brazier to the Dodgers in free agency, which he will probably be a great help with the Dodgers because he brings plus velocity and veteran leadership, another veteran guy that can that's been in the postseason before. So yeah, so as far as MLB, that is all for MLB. So for NBA, I'm going back to the trade deadline because that trade deadline is huge. Lots of stuff happened on that day. The first trade that happened was I believe the Gordon Hayward trade was one of the first few trades to happen. Gordon Hayward got dealt to OKC for Davis Bertans, Trey Mann. I have all these papers going on right now, so there's quite a bit of papers, but yeah, he got traded to the OKC Thunder, and as well as the Hornets will get a guy named, I'm just going to say his first initial V, looks like Misic, and draft compensation. Draft compensation was huge in this trade deadline because with the rules now, they want the team, the NBA wants the teams to build through the draft instead of signing. So, teams like Phoenix, some of the LA teams, some of the big market teams, they're going to have to take a bigger hit because of the way they can pursue free agents. So the Hornets got some draft compensation and 2 future second rounders. So what does that trade do? I give, for both sides, at least for OKC, I give it an A minus. For Charlotte, I give it a C. I mean, they're not going anywhere. The only way this would go to at least a B is because of the picks and draft compensation. But yeah, OKC, they get a veteran leadership. When I said I think last week that they need somebody who's a veteran leader who's been there before in the postseason with this young team. And Gordon Hayward can still play. He's not Utah Jazz Gordon Hayward by any means at all, but at the same time he's got experience and he can pass that along with young guys and be a good good guy off the bench. I mean, he's a former All-Star that's been in the league a long time. So coming off the bench is going to be big for them. As far as scoring and what they can do offensively, as far as lineups and rotations and all that. Another trade that happened really early was Philly got Buddy Hield from Indiana, and Philly traded Furkan Korkmaz and Marcus Morris Sr. and 3 second-round picks. So obviously the trade, it seems good for Philly, but Joel Embiid's not there. But when he does come back, he's going to have a guy that's one of the best, has been one of the best shooters since he's come into the league. He can shoot off the dribble, is a rhythm shooter. He can also catch and shoot as well. With him being in Sacramento, New Orleans, and with Tyrese Halliburton, he's shown why he's one of the better and I would guess most feared shooters in the league when they get rolling. But yeah, I feel like it was a good trade on both sides. I would give it an A- for Philly just because Embiid is not there. But when he is there, it's going to be an A+ trade with Tyrese Maxey as well, because then there's going to be 5 guys looking at 2 people, and someone's going to have to help, and Buddy Hield's going to get some good shots. But with Indiana, they got picks, and Marcus Morris ended up going to the Spurs. He's in another trade that I'll talk about in a minute. But Furkan Korkmaz did get waived by the Pacers. So they did what they did. Indiana got what they got, and I feel like Indiana knows what they're doing. They're a playoff team, and they know the way they're constructing their team now is about a pace and space offense. So I trust them and what they're doing. Another thing that happened, this is not trade deadline, what I'm about to say, but Trae Young and Scotty Barnes just got to be East All-Star injury replacements. So I am happy for them because Trae Young, like I said in episode 2, I believe, he was an All-Star snub as far as I feel like he should have started, but that's just because the media and the players didn't vote him, but in fan vote he was there. So, but yeah, he's now starter and reserve, and so is Scotty Barnes. So congratulations to both of them, and I cannot wait to see what they do February 18th. So back to the trades. Monte Morris went to Minnesota. Minnesota dealt Troy Brown Jr. a 2030 second-round pick and Shake Milton. As far as Minnesota, they get another veteran who was on the Denver team in the bubble and was on some playoff runs with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. So they're going to get another guy that can score, and I'm just glad that he was able to get out of Detroit because they weren't going anywhere, and I'm glad they dealt him somewhere that he can benefit from. So another trade that Detroit was very active in this trade deadline, which I was not shocked, but how many trades in a certain amount of time that they did, that they were in. So Detroit ended up getting Simone Ficecchio. Hopefully I did not butcher that name. But he went to Detroit. A few games ago he did score 20 points. I think that was in his debut game with them. So I just know that he's a power forward that can shoot some threes. So it gives another shooter for Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and Jalen Duren, which I feel like that is their big three, and that they should surround themselves with good role players like Oscar Thompson, for example, as a key contributor. But going back, the Jazz ended up receiving Kevin Knox, who I'm glad that he's finally playing to what he was being compared to when he did get drafted as a shooter, at least, because when he was with New York, he was getting booed based on his performance. And I'm just glad he was able to find Detroit, help him I guess, redefine his career and a place in this league. And he's going to the Jazz. They also get rights to Gabriel Procida and a 2024 second round pick in this upcoming draft. So I feel like it's a pretty even trade. Nothing wowed me there. Um, the next few trades are, I would say, the bigger trades that happened in the trade deadline. So obviously, we're going to talk about the biggest one first. Detroit ended up sending Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks to the Knicks, which when I knew that one was going to get traded, I didn't know both of them were. I knew Bojan was going to be the guy they were going to try to deal because he had the most value on that team. But they ended up sending Alec Burks. Those two guys for the Knicks. Alec Burks has played with Thibodeau before. Thibodeau knows what he's getting. And, he's putting up the same numbers that he did with the Knicks, with the Pistons right now. So, Bojan Bogdanovic shooting about 41% from three. So so is Alec Burks as well. Both of them shooting 40%. Bogdanovic is scoring 20 a game. Now, when he goes to the Knicks, I'm not sure what role he would be. I'm not sure if he would come off the bench, which I'm assuming he would, because DiVincenzo, OG, Randall, those are the three guys that, other than Brunson, you can't bring out. And even if he does start, if Mitchell Robinson does not come back, Randall will just move to the center position, and Bojan will be the four. Even though he'll be as undersized for, he'll be the four. But Detroit ended up getting Evan Fournier, Malachi Flynn, Quentin Grimes, Ryan Arcidiacono, and two future second rounders. I'm not really sure what that means with Detroit. I don't really understand and know what they're getting. I know Evan Fournier is a very, very talented guy from France, and he's been in the league for at least about 5 years or more. He's just a good bench scorer, I would say, for Detroit. I mean, they got to focus on their young development. But Quentin Grimes is a good 3-and-D shooter, 3-and-D guy. He's going to get some playing time over there, way more than he wasn't getting in New York. But yeah, Detroit ended up also waiving Ryan Arcidiacono as well. So, he's just, ever since Villanova, I guess that was the last time we, saw him on highlights and everything. So, but yeah, that trade was the biggest one, just because of New York finally getting two pieces that could potentially get them. I feel like after this trade, they have the potential to go to the NBA Finals. Do I think they're going to beat Milwaukee? No. Do I think they're going to beat Boston? No. But at the same time, you do have to play the game. So yeah, the potential's there for them. But I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think it's going to be next year when Mitchell Robinson, if he does come back. If he doesn't come back, then I don't think they're going to go. But if he does come back healthy, they have a chance to go to the finals in June. The next two big trades were done by Dallas. Dallas traded for Daniel Gafford from Washington, and Washington received Rashawn Holmes and some draft compensation. For Dallas, they needed defense. They needed a rim protector with Derek Lively being out, and with Daniel Gafford being a 7-footer and being one of the better defensive centers in the Eastern Conference. That's what Dallas needed, and that's what they got, and they ended up getting him for roughly cheap. I feel like, but yeah, that's going to help them out. And Dallas also traded for another guy that can defend and can also space the floor out as well. And PJ Washington. PJ Washington I feel like has been one of the most underrated power forwards in the Eastern Conference, just because he's been playing with with the Hornets, he came from Kentucky, a low post guy that has a good low post game. He had a low post game in college that was, I would say, above average, and then he brought it into the NBA. But this league is not about going in the paint anymore. It's about three. It's about 3-pointers spacing the floor, and he has increased his percentages and has improved that area in his game. And he's going to Dallas, which he's coming off the bench for them as of now. I feel like he would benefit. They would benefit if he started, but I have to see what their rotation is, and as far as the front court depth. But that'll be in the next episode, just so I can give more information on that. But I feel like he would be a better starter and a better contributor for Dallas if he was in the starting lineup. But the Hornets ended up getting Grant Williams, Seth Curry, and a lightly protected first-round pick. As far as that pick, I'm not really sure what lightly protected means. I do know that if it is protected, depending on the rule, depending on the conditions of that pick and the rules, it could go back to Dallas. It just depends on where they finish up at the end of the season. So, but yeah, Hornets got a lot of draft picks and lots of draft compensation. So, good trade for Dallas. Dallas got what they needed and they got what they wanted. The Nets ended up trading for Dennis Schroeder and Thaddeus Young, and the Raptors ended up getting Spencer Dinwiddie, which I feel like that was a steal for the Nets as far as like one of those trades that, as far as made sense, as far as a simple deal, that was probably the best trade other than the New York Knicks trade, because you get 2 players for one. Plus, Dennis Schroeder and Spencer Dinwiddie are averaging about the same numbers. I think Schroeder's averaging at least another point, but it's still the same guy. Schroeder is a better defender, and he's more crafty, and Spencer Dinwiddie is just, I would say he's a better scorer, but Schroeder's been balling for Toronto and can help bring veteran leadership to Brooklyn because they are a young team. And Thaddeus Young, who's been in the league for a long, long time, is one of the better pros in the business. I'm glad that he's still in the league, coming out of Georgia Tech. So glad he's going to be able to get another chance to play, because Toronto is getting younger. They have a lot more youth on that team. So I'm glad that he's going to Brooklyn. Toronto was also another team that was busy. They got a lot of underrated guys. So in this trade with Toronto, they were able to get Ochai Agbaji, who is a rookie, I think, if not sophomore in the league, coming out of Kansas. As of now, he's a guy that can just defend and be able to shoot threes. So, and then Kelly Olynyk, who's been one of the better veterans in the league as far as 3-point shooting and playoff experience with Boston under Brad Stevens. So Toronto ended up getting 2 guys that could help space the floor, and the Jazz were able to get Otto Porter Jr., Kira Lewis, and a first-round pick in this draft. So I feel like both teams were able to benefit there. Nothing wrong with that trade at all. Philly ended up trading Daniel House Jr. to Detroit and a 2024 second round pick. They traded them to Detroit just because with this trade with Patrick Beverley going to Milwaukee for Cameron Payne and a 27 second rounder. They need another point guard and another roster spot. So that's why they traded Pat Bev to get Cameron Payne, but also they needed another roster spot to get that veteran guard for probably Tyrese Maxey for development and a potential playoff run if Joel Embiid comes back, to get that veteran presence for them. So the Spurs ended up getting Marcus Morris Sr., a 2029 second round pick from the Clippers, from Indiana, for Doug McDermott, and that's who the Pacers ended up getting Doug McDermott. So I feel like that is an A trade, with Pacers trading Buddy Hield earlier that day, getting another quality shooter in Doug McDermott, who's been in the league a long time as well, and the Spurs getting a draft pick, but also a guy that can get a bucket for you. The Spurs aren't going anywhere as far as playoffs or anything like that, but they get a veteran who's tough to bring that edge mentality to that organization, to that club, because they are also one of the younger teams in the league as well. So, plus, with that mentality from Marcus Morris, he'll be able to push Wemby a little bit tougher. The Bucks trade Robin Lopez and cash to Sacramento, and then the Robin Lopez is expected to be waived. And Philly, one of the last trades, Philly traded for Jaden Springer, and Celtics received a second round pick. So as far as that's the trade deadline, there weren't a lot of big names. When I say big names, like as far as all stars and stars and like that, but the New York Knicks trade for Bojan and Alec Burks was the biggest trade and the biggest shock in that trading deadline. But Detroit ended up waiving their two acquisitions: Ryan Archie-Nakano, Daniel House. They also waived Keelan Hayes, Danilo Gallinari, and Joe Harris. Joe Harris, when he was with Brooklyn, was one of the best shooters in the whole NBA. When he went to the 3-point contest, I think that was when the big three were there. He was shooting about 41%, and they were able to get, in that same year, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson. So they were able to get more shooters that could do what he did. Plus, they had Seth Curry at the time as well, so they needed other needs. But Joe Harris is one of the better shooters in the league, and I feel like he should be picked up, just because of the spacing that he brings to any team that he does go to. I feel like he should get picked up, in my opinion. There's some more trades I forgot, but the other trades were very, very small. Except for this last trade was as far as teams in the deal was the biggest. The Suns ended up getting Royce O'Neal and David Roddy. Royce O'Neal was from Brooklyn and Roddy was from Memphis. The Grizzlies ended up acquiring Yuta Watanabe from Phoenix and Shimezi Metu also from Phoenix, and the Grizzlies will get a 2026 first round pick swap, and Brooklyn will receive Keita Bates-Diop from Phoenix and Jordan Goodwin from Phoenix, and Brooklyn will get 3 future second round picks. I feel like everybody gets what they need. Suns need defense and 3-point shooting. Roddy, they're just another guy to develop. Yuta Watanabe, he's about 6'9", 6'10", so you get some front court depth there and some size. And Metu is also a big guy, so you get some size there. Keita Bates-Diop, another good role player, and Jordan Goodwin, another solid role player for Brooklyn. So that's the last trade I'm going to announce officially. But yeah, that trade will help all three of these teams. But at the same time, I do think that Phoenix, after that Milwaukee game, even though Dame wasn't playing, Chris Middleton did get injured, and Brook Lopez was not playing as well, That was a no-biter game, and Milwaukee wasn't healthy all the way. So, but that's just the greatness of Giannis and his future Hall of Fame career. But Phoenix did improve. I do think they do need to figure out how to use all three at the same time, because just like the Clippers, it's a lot of isolation in some ways. Just because Beal's got to get his, Durant's got to get his, Booker's got to get his. Barkley, Charles Barkley said something very interesting on Inside the NBA. He said something about Bradley Beal going to the bench. Now, do I think he's going to do that? No, because Bradley Beal is is a former All-Star and former All NBA player, and he could start on any team and basically get 25 to 30 points a game. But just imagine if he did do that, though. Not only would he be helping the starting lineup in a way to get another shooter potentially in there, but when he would go to the bench, he would dominate. With what Westbrook is doing. Westbrook still with the Clippers is one of the better point guards in the whole league, and a top 20 point guard in the league, and he's with the second unit. And Westbrook is still having that athletic ability that he does have, and he's still quicker than some of these guys now. He just got to pick his spots when he wants to, but I mean, he would score his points with the second unit, and if Booker was tired or didn't play, then you could put Beal back in the starting lineup with Durant and so forth. But Phoenix Suns could potentially put him on the bench. They're not going to, but it's just a good thought, because at the end of the game, you're going to have him in there regardless. So, that's just another strategy that Frank Vogel could use. Dallas, after the trade deadline, got significantly better, I would say. Grant Williams was a good pickup in the offseason from that trade, but he is undersized, about 6'6", 6'5" to 6'7". I would gracefully give him 6'7", but he's about 6'5", 6'6", and he's a 4. Not the best 3-point shooter, but his shot this year was the corner. But he's going to Charlotte, but I feel like they got a little bit better when Derek Lively comes back. They're going to get that lob threat for Luka, and Derek Lively is a underrated player in the rookie class, and cannot wait till he gets back. And then there's two players that I was shocked did not get traded. Excuse me. Miles Bridges is the one that I was surprised didn't get traded, but I did not know that he has veto power in trades. Did not know that until that day. And a lot of people didn't really know, because Miles Bridges came back. This is his first year back after his off the court issues. But while he's healthy and playing, he could have been a maxed player about a year or two ago, I believe. He averages this year he's averaging about 22 right now, but when he's healthy, he's the second best player on the Hornets team, with LaMelo Ball being number 1. He's making sure he's improving on his 3-point shooting, and I think he's at 38%, while when he ended up coming in the league, he wasn't a good 3-point shooter at all. He's very athletic, can guard 2 through 4. He's a 6'9" power forward. I guess if you were to give him a position, he's a 4, but he's very athletic, can jump out of the gym. If someone tries to contest his finishing at the rim, just beware, because he will baptize you underneath the rim. But he is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the summer. The Hornets are trying to sign him in free agency this upcoming offseason, but depending on who wants him, that's going to be a name in a top 10 name to try and pursue if if the mega stars don't decline their player option and everything like that. But another guy who I was shocked didn't get traded at all or bought out was PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker is a 38-year-old veteran. Won the championship with the Bucks in 2021, and excuse me, I don't know why I had that. I forgot that. Well, alarm was was going off. I was expected to sleep in today, but I needed to get some work done. So, PJ Tucker, 38-year-old, like I said, 38-year-old pro, won a championship with the Bucks in 21. He's been on the Clippers, and he got dealt with James Harden to the Clippers for Robert Covington, KJ Martin Jr., Nicholas Batum, and I think they ended up Philly did get a draft pick in there as well. But he's only played 12 games for them, and he hasn't set foot on the court since November 29th. So I was pushing for him to get traded, just so he could try to contribute on another contender, or just get some playing time in general with a bum ass team. But what someone with more experience, as far as life experience goes, and who has watched a lot more basketball than I have, and I don't know why I didn't think of this, just because I want the players to play. I want them to go somewhere where they contribute. I want them to be successful. But and like he guarded Kevin Durant in the playoffs. And what my good old pops told me was, what if they're not playing him in the regular season because they don't need him right now? What if they're saving him for the postseason, because since the Clippers are a little bit young, they're going to need his experience for the postseason? And that just reminded me of what Dwight Howard did in the Lakers against Denver. Denver in the Western Conference Finals in 2020, Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee were the two guys that played a lot of minutes against Jokic for different looks defensively, and to make him guard off pick and rolls because they were lob threats, right? So, after that series, Dwight Howard didn't play anymore against Miami because he wasn't needed. And so when my dad told me that, as far as they're not playing him now because they don't need him right now, that gave me more perspective and then me remembering Dwight Howard and his situation. So yeah, I hope they get into the playoffs and they do play him, because he's got lots of defensive tenacity, lots of energy, intensity. Can talk some good trash, and I just hope he gets on the court soon. Another thing that happened with another player. This comes from Atlanta. An Atlanta forward got an extension. His name is Onyeka Okongwu. You might know him if you're from the LA area. He did go to Chino Hills with the Ball brothers, or at least with LiAngelo and LaMelo. He's been a good role player for Atlanta. He's a 6'8" forward. He's averaging 10, 7, and about an assist a game. He's an 81% free throw shooter and shooting over 60% from the floor. He's a hustle guy. He's 23, so he's young. Has been very dependable, playing at least 50 games. But at the same time, last year he played 80. And the first 2 years he was having a little bit trouble trying to find his niche, and potential injuries there because he only played 50 and 48. So Not really sure what happened. I have to go in the archives and find those and find what happened. But ever since 2021, as far as points production has gone up, um, and so has rebounds. Rebounds is kind of the same, but he's been better defensively. So the potential skyrocket for him as far as in the Eastern Conference. he he signed an extension worth $62 million. Very well deserved for a guy his age. And his for his trajectory, but the extension's 4 years, 62. I feel like they signed him just because they did not want him to go to another potential team that could potentially be in the division or Western Conference, or Eastern Conference, excuse me. But yeah. And then last week on February 7th was a year anniversary of LeBron passing Kareem. That record was about 40 years old, so it was hard to see because we didn't know if someone was going to break it, and then the person that would break it would obviously be LeBron, just because he's been at it since he was 18 years old, has accomplished way more than any 18-year-old could have done in the NBA. Other than Kobe Bryant, of course, but I mean, LeBron has been at it since 18 and has had the most pressure out of anyone in the league history. So that's all for NBA news and MLB. The Super Bowl also happened yesterday. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch the whole thing because I have a full-time job and trying to juggle this, school, and work. But as May Parker said in Spider-Man 2, you have to find a balance, and this is all I can do. So the times I do upload, I might be talking about lots of things, but with multiple days, as far as if it's on a day like today, I'm going to be talking about some things from potentially Friday through Sunday. But yeah, I want to make sure that I get the content right, the numbers right, the stats right, and how I'm conveying this news and content for you guys. But going back to the Super Bowl, it was between the 49ers and Chiefs. This was one of the better Super Bowls in recent memory. I don't know. I'm not sure about the commercials. I didn't really watch the commercials because lately they've been terrible. There might be like a few good ones, and then after that, it's just not funny. But it was a good Super Bowl. The Chiefs did end up winning. Here's some of the stats here. I mean, as far as quarterback play, that's what it was going to come down to. Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes. Both of them throwing over 250 yards. Patrick Mahomes throwing over 300 yards. Patrick Mahomes is I believe third or fourth ring. Jawan Jennings, he threw a 21-yard touchdown pass. So, which from a receiver, I think the last time he did that was with I think it was with Philly when they won the Super Bowl, when Nick Foles caught that pass in that Super Bowl against Tom Brady. So McCaffrey combined 160 yards, 80 receiving, 80 rushing. Patrick Mahomes 66 yards. This team, both teams defensively were really good. It's just it came down to overtime. It went down to overtime, and that extra point for Moody really. Some people could say, "Oh man, well, he lost in the game," and yada yada yada. But if you look at the game, there might be more than just that one play. That play did hurt them. It did. Don't get me wrong, but it definitely wasn't the deciding factor. Because you can do that with every play in every game, no matter what the sport is. But yeah, that did hurt them a lot. I do think Nick Bosa did get some. Should have got some flags because it looked like the tackles at least the left tackle did hold him a few times, but you could say that about everybody as well. But this was a good balanced Super Bowl. I mean, and then what I heard this morning as well was every Super Bowl Kansas City has been in with under Pat Mahomes, they've been down at least by 10 or more. So, which is still an accomplishment getting the Super Bowls. But if you're coming from behind all the time, at least some Brady fans were like, Brady was behind in Atlanta and he came back. Okay, one of the best Super Bowl comebacks, one of the best Super Bowls in NFL history. But there are also times where Brady has led in the Super Bowl and did not give up that lead. So, I still think Tom Brady's still the GOAT. My favorite quarterback is Peyton Manning, and then my second favorite is Brett Favre. But Pat Mahomes is approaching that GOAT status. He's not the GOAT yet. He's got to get. I feel like if he gets to try to get that, to try to chase Tom Brady. Plus he's under 30, so he has a definite shot. As long as he's got Travis Kelce and Andy Reid under with those big three guys right there. He definitely does have a shot, but I would say as far as talent, he's the most talented quarterback we've ever seen. I mean, everyone thought that was Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is as Stephen A. would say, a bad man. But yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is, I would say, a top 10 all-time quarterback as of now. I mean, he's got 3 or 4 Super Bowls, 2 MVPs. Been going to the Pro Bowl ever since he's been in the league. So he's shown who he is in a short period of time. So plus there's a lot of conspiracies as well as this Super Bowl. This is the 13th game Taylor Swift went to. Taylor Swift has a song that's called 13. 2 plus 11 is 13. Then there's some other conspiracies, but those 3 are pretty interesting as well. So, so yeah, that was very interesting as far as conspiracy goes, and if y'all believe any of that, or if you believe the NFL is scripted, you believe what you believe. But yeah, it was a good Super Bowl. Unfortunately, I'm sad that McCaffrey hasn't gotten one yet. It would have been cool if Purdy got one just because of his story, and Deebo Samuel would have been cool. And I'm an Ohio State fan. Hopefully Marvin Harrison Jr. is a top 3 pick. I'm hoping he is because he's one of the best receivers in the country. And it would have been cool if Nick Bosa and Chase Young were to get a Super Bowl as well from OSU. But in the next episode, I will dive into Mahomes and Kelce as far as dynamic duos in NFL history. I do think they are a definite top 5 duo. As far as top 3, they could be. I have to look at information as far as, because there's Tom and Gronk, there's Jerry Rice and Jerry Rice and Joe Montana, John Elway, Shannon Sharp. So there's a lot of dynamic duos. There's even trios as far as if you want to talk about Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, and Michael Irvin as well. So, we'll have to see. I do think there a top three just because of the Super Bowls and the clutch moments they do have together. I do think they are a top three duo in NFL history, if not all time in all of sports, NBA, MLB, hockey, as far as that. So yeah, that'll be the next episode I will do. I will do an episode based off of Mahomes and Kelsey, and to see if Travis Kelsey is the greatest tight end of all time. You have to go into stats, and he's got the Super Bowls, and he's got the receiving yards and some statistical categories. But we will see what I say about if he is the greatest tight end of all time. And on that note, that is all that happened as far as sports. Since this is a Monday, it's Movie Monday. During the Super Bowl, I didn't see the trailer because I'm not going to watch it. I want to get as little details as possible due to the leaks that have happened in Marvel with that movie. Deadpool 3. I'm not going to talk about the trailer because I'm not going to see it. Because, like I said, with the leaks. But that is coming out this July. I am super duper excited to see Hugh Jackman, or as some people say, Daddy Jackman. I'm happy to see him reprise his role because his last role was in Logan as the character, and that is in a different. That's in 2029, and in this universe, right now in the MCU, we're in the early 2020s. So I'm excited to see what happens there in that movie. As long as Deadpool being brought into the MCU, I'm excited. And another movie that was shown a lot during the Super Bowl was Kung Fu Panda 4. I've grown up with Kung Fu Panda. Jack Black is a stellar performer, stellar actor, regardless if it is live action or voiceover, which he's more famous for his voiceover work. As Poe, as Bowser now with the Super Mario movie. And I'm excited for this movie. It brings in another villain that can take all their kung fu abilities and mimics them, which is awesome because it gives Poe another challenge. Plus, at the end of Kung Fu Panda 3, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, Poe learns what it is to be a spirit, what it is to be a spiritual leader, with Oogway dying to the ox. I forgot his name. But yeah, he is going to be that spiritual warrior. He's going to learn to learn what it is to be that. Where I know I repeated myself several fucking times. Apologize, but he is going to learn how to be that spiritual warrior for China in this universe. Well, there's going to be a new dragon warrior, and it's going to be Awkwafina's character. And I'm excited to see it just because it's just a nostalgic thing from my childhood. So on that note, those are the two movies I am looking forward to. That's what Movie Monday is going to be. Either the movie I saw, movies I'm excited for, and yeah, that's basically what Movie Monday is going to be. And yeah, that is going to be the end of today's episode. Subscribe, comment down below if you want to agree with or disagree with any of my takes. Tell me what you feel in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.